Okay. Everybody good to go?
Yeah, we're good.
Perfect. Well, hey, I guess I'll introduce myself because not everyone has met me here before. But like Sabrina was saying, my name is Erica. I am definitely not a super senior student. I've been in the industry about 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I've been with Keller Williams for, a year now. Actually, my anniversary is June 1st. But, I have been in productivity coaching. I enjoy the program a lot. And I think that, Jen and Sabrina and everybody who's been part of this program had a lot to offer, at least when I was coming on board and I was brand new. Well, not brand new, but I was coming on board and I didn't know quite the systems that we have to offer with Keller Williams. So yeah, now that I've learned a couple of things, I wanted to give back to everybody and talk about it because I think it's important to kind of share our ideas, and that's sort of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And anyway, so for all of you, don't hesitate to interrupt me anytime. If you have any questions, say something or type something. It doesn't matter. Like I really don't mind if you guys butt in, because I'm not like a questions at the end kind of person. Because I think if you guys have any questions, it'll probably be a little bit more effective to ask when you guys are curious about it, so that way no one forgets about anything. But yeah, I guess I will get started then. It's 1:03. Okay, so I'm kind of going through Jennifer's lead generation class. This is my second time teaching it. A lot of the same things, I'll be talking about a lot of the same things I did last time. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, just say something and, we can talk about it, because I want you guys to kind of help me with where the class goes and the direction we end up going in. Okay, cool. Thumbs up if you can. Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect. Okay. So, Jen wanted me to talk to you guys a little bit about like all the different kinds of lead generation, which I'm going to do, but I think it's important for us to talk about how we can adapt a lot of these differently right now, because we're obviously in a very different market, especially if you guys are new, like it might be your first time going through a bit of a low market, let's call that. But this is only my second low market, but this time I found to be a lot easier because of just the systems that you can implement for yourself. And you can realize that there's still a lot of things you can do, even if you can't leave the house, or if you can't do anything, or you feel like it might not be a good time to talk to people about real estate, because we got to be sensitive, right? It's a really weird time for a lot of us, whether for us or for the clients. So I think it's important for us to kind of tailor our approach to lead generation based on the times. A lot of things that would be working normally may not be as great of an idea right now, just because you want to be sensitive to people. So I guess I'm going to go through a couple of my topics. So, for the ones of you that were in my class last time, I do have 2 main areas of lead generation that I work with in my own system. Sorry, there's my cat just in the back. Yeah, my cat likes to hang out with me while I work. So yes, 2 areas of lead generation. So I'm going to go through kind of the structure and the procedures of each type of lead generation, i.e. like door knocking, cold calling, that kind of thing. I'm going to share some of my tips that I found to be very helpful when performing any kind of lead gen. And then lastly, I'm going to go through how I follow up. Okay. So obviously, kind of want to know what you guys have done in the past, because, I'm going to assume that most of you guys are newer agents. So what have you guys done so far in terms of lead generation? Jump right in there.
Well, I like to door knock, but we haven't been able to door knock lately, but that's what I like.
Yeah.
And talk to our sphere of influence.
Yep. Great one.
Database.
Yep. Anyone else? I've seen some of you guys lead generate, so shoot me ideas.
Before COVID hit, I was doing a lot of door knocking, but lately it's been just social media and reaching out to my sphere as well.
Good. Awesome. So, those are all great ideas, and those are very big ideas. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of break down each of those into. So I'm going to dive right into it. And so like I said, oh, thank you, Corey. door knock, local business promo, agent locator, videos on Facebook. Those are really, really good things that you can be doing, you know, in any other market. And some of those you can still be doing now. So like I said, I'm going to dive into it. So for me, I personally see that there's two spheres of lead generation that you need to be doing, and you need to kind of tailor what your routine looks like for each of the two kinds. So the first kind obviously is I call your inner circle, which is obviously your friends and family, sphere of influence, etc. And to me, this circle is all about nurturing your relationships. So, you know, I understand, like I said, if you guys are all or mostly newer agents, I'm going to assume that, you know, these people that you know, they kind of know when you started. Is that fair to assume?
Pretty much.
Like your friends and family probably know that you've been at you. Sorry, my internet is unstable. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, like a lot of
You're on and off.
Okay. Don't worry. Let me know if I start cutting in and out again. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yeah, your audio is fine. It's just the video might stall a bit, but the audio is fine. So just, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the audio is what's important, I think. Okay, so like I said, a lot of them probably know when you started. So, you know, in your shoes as a new agent, that's probably something that, you know, a lot of people can be weary of. So, you know, if you put yourselves into their shoes, sorry, I keep looking over there because that's where all my notes are. You know, even if your sphere of influence already knows and loves you, like most of them are going to need a little bit of time to build their trust in like a real estate kind of regard, you know, because to them, you know, you're Tamara and Daniela and Justine or whatever, you know, you guys are that person and you're a friend, you're your family member to them. So, you know, that takes time to kind of put a shift in their head, right? You need to show them why they should trust you with a really big asset. And, you know, the easiest way to be doing that is just to remind them all the time, right? So, you know, you want to transition from, you know, the first thing that pops up into their mind when I say Austin, you know, I want to become from when people used to think of you as a friend, you want to make them start to think of you as a realtor, right? So, you know, the only way that you can do that, and in my experience, the best way that I've found to do that is to just remind them constantly that, you know, you are a realtor. And some ways that you can do that is, you know, remind them that you're learning, remind them that you're taking courses. And, you know, whenever you're doing anything real estate related, you want to send them a reminder for that. Sorry about that. My phone keeps going off. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it shows that you're taking this career seriously, right? So it's unfortunate, but, you know, we do have a pretty high turnover rate in our industry. And, you know, as much as your sphere of influence might love you and know you, a lot of them aren't sure if, you know, you're ready to take on something like that for them, right? And it's a normal thing because, you know, for us, you know, we can understand that, you know, we might not want to hire someone who's really new at something to handle, you know, a huge asset of mine. So, you know, it's all about perception, right? You want to learn and is making improvements, okay? So social media obviously is your most powerful tool. And I'm going to ask all of you to do something with me right now. So everyone have their phone on them?
Yep.
Yes? Yes? Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to get you guys all to take a photo of our Zoom chat today. And all of you are going to post it somewhere on your social media saying that, oh, taking a lead generation class today to adapt to today's market in real estate, okay? So, you know,
I'll
sometimes
count to 3,
if, you
so
know,
we're all smiling.
Yeah, ready? We gotta time this.
Okay, we gotta time this. So let's all take this together and make sure that we all look good. You guys all ready? Okay. So, depending on the course that you're taking, sometimes I like to tag the instructor because, you know, again, it shows legitimacy. It shows that, you know, these are things that you're working really hard to do and that kind of thing. So I've found, you know, that to be very helpful. And, you know, I'm not sure if all of you are, you know, kind of social media centered or social media savvy, but, you know, if you don't already have a business page, you absolutely need to have one. It's not a if and or but, you just need to have a Facebook business page or a real, you know, or any kind of business page, right? because people are going to be looking you up, you know, whether it's your sphere of influence or leads that you come across or online leads or anyone from anywhere. You know, we're kind of in a digital mindset these days where, you know, whenever we meet somebody, I bet you half of you are looking them up on Google or on Facebook first. So, you know, you need to be strongly present on these things. And even if you don't regularly post on these pages, you need to have one, and you need to post on at least semi-regularly, you know, i.e., you know, if you want to make 1 or 2 posts a month, that would still be very helpful because it starts to build a presence over time and it helps people take you more seriously. And it just gives the illusion of professionalism, right? So, you know, for example, this is a very loose example, but, you know, let's say you have the choice between 2 hairdressers. Would you hire, you know, the person who posts regularly on a very professional looking account, you know, with really nice results, high quality photos, or would you rather hire somebody who, you know, you can't even find on Google at all, right? And let's say you didn't know either of them and there was no relationship whatsoever. I would probably go for the person who has all their photos and all their work online, because, like, you know, it just builds trust without even knowing the person, right? That's number one. So, you know, a couple other things that I do that a lot of other realtors do is, you know, you can post other people's listings, you know, on a weekly or even a bi-weekly basis, because, like, you know, you want to show, again, the illusion that you're busy, that you're working, that you know, have access to listings, for example. And these listings don't always have to be your own, right? So, you know, we've had a couple instances on our WhatsApp chat that, you know, you can post listings from, you know, other agents in coaching or other agents in Keller Williams. For the most part, agents in our brokerage are very, very open to having us listings from them. Like, they don't, you know, they don't mind, because in our minds as listing agents, we're like, well, you know, the more promotion, the better. Why the heck not? Okay, it says my internet is unstable again. Let me know when you can hear me properly. I have no idea what's going on. There's no one else using the internet right now.
Except the rest of the world that's working from home, Erica. No worries.
So,
All good, all good, all good.
all good. Okay. So, you know, like anything, you just have to be consistent with it. Like, I like to post at least 1 listing every single week. And then, you know, when you post on your business page, just make sure you share it onto your personal page as well, because, like, that's where your friends and family are going to see it, because not all of them, sorry, that's my cat messing around with a plastic bag. But not all of your friends and family like to follow a business page, because for them, it's, you know, think about me. I don't like to subscribe to newsletters, even if it's someone I know. Like, just because, you know, we will want to minimize the junk in our life. And that's what a lot of people are going to perceive business posts to be about. So, you know, generally I like to just share them onto my personal page, but, you know, you want to make it applicable to them. You know, you want to put a caption that makes it, you know, eye-catching to them for any reason. But that's just one thing. And, you know, you can just use other, like, agents as productivity to boost your own, you know, perception, to be honest. And also, it does make Keller Williams, the brokerage that you guys all work for, make it look a little bit more, you know, legitimate and productive, and show that we have market share and that kind of thing, which in the end of the day just helps you. Okay. And then, you know, another thing that I like to do to kind of nurture my sphere of influence is I host a lot of open houses. And at these open houses, Daniela, you know, I always make sure they're very, very well documented for my social media, because, again, it's another opportunity for you to look busy and to show that you're working. It's not all about looking busy, but, you know, it's basically showing people how productive you can be. And again, it helps people take you legitimately. And when it comes to open houses, you generally have about 3 chances to post about them. So I usually like to post once on the Thursday before the weekend. And then I like to post during the open house as well. You know, you can do any tours of yourself, you know, taking people through the home, or you can talk about it a little bit, or that kind of thing. And then you can also post about it after the weekend. And you can be like, oh, you know, my open house was a very big success. Like, we had 8 groups through in an hour, you know, the market's crazy, or something like that, you know, make it your own. Yeah, so that's that. And then, you know, I'm going to go into a little bit more about how to nurture these in, like, a coronavirus market, which is what we're in right now. You know, not all these things are rocket science. I think a lot of these things that you might already know. So obviously, well, a lot of us are able to work normally and, like, leave the house, for that matter. So right now is probably a very good time to nurture your friends and family because a lot of them aren't working either. So, they have more time than ever to, to talk and, to kind of like share things on social media, and they're paying more attention, in my opinion. So, what I like to do is I reach out through Instagram direct messages a lot of Facebook messages, because these are people you already know. So for the most part, they're paying a lot more attention to their direct messages, and they'll open them and they'll respond to them because they're people that you already know. So, again, like what I like to do is I don't mention real estate when I reach out to my sphere of influence, because it can come across as being kind of inconsiderate, especially at this time, because you just don't know. Oh, sorry, I see a question from Corey. Do you also mean to do open houses on other agents' listings? I don't have any listings, and there aren't any Keller Williams listings close to me right now. I generally do open houses for other agents. Not all of them are always my own, but that's tricky because for the most part, I'm assuming that most of you guys do live in New York and Simcoe region, which a lot of our market share as a brokerage is. But one tip, actually, you don't actually have to work for the same brokerage to do open houses for another agent. Everyone thought for a long time that you actually have to work together at the same company, but you don't. So, Corey, in that case, if there are any agents in your area that have a lot of market share, that you have a relationship in some way, you can always ask them if you can host an open house for them, because there's actually no RICO rules against that. And yeah, because it opens up a lot of opportunities. And if you don't have those relationships already, you can actually reach out to some agents, and a lot of them won't mind, because they can offer more to their clients at the same time, being like, well, I can offer you an open house, every other weekend, which if they were on their own, they might not be able to do, because you can't host that many open houses in a weekend. There just isn't that time. Okay, so yeah, I don't mention real estate when I talk to my sphere about anything, just because again, you don't know if they lost their job, you don't know what they're going through financially, and you don't know if their spouse lost their job, or just what people are going through. So I think personally, I wouldn't like it if somebody reached out right now and as a friend, and the first thing they talked to me about was their business. I wouldn't be too happy about that. So, just be genuine, ask how they're doing, ask what they're up to, don't talk about real estate. And, honestly, if you've been posting enough about your real estate career, they'll already know, and that topic will come across naturally. They're always going to be like, hey, Irene, how has real estate been for you recently? After you guys have been talking for a little bit, that topic will naturally come up, and it doesn't make you look like that's the only reason why you're reaching out. And of course it shouldn't be, because if you are a relationship-based agent, you do want to take the time right now and show your sphere that you care. Okay, so that's the inner circle, in my opinion. And then the other one is the outer circle, which is just people that you don't already know, right? And that's how a lot of you guys will drum up a lot of your new business. And honestly, I found this to be really helpful because you're new, because no one knows that you're new, right? When you meet somebody while lead generating, no one knows how long you've been in real estate for. You can, the line fake it till you make it kind of works in this case, because you can use it, right? It's not 5 minutes or 5 years. You can, honestly, it's all about how you carry yourself and what you perceive that to be. So again, as a new agent, honestly, I actually drew up more new business than I did sphere of influence business in my first year because of that. Okay. Yeah, so I just found that it levels the playing field. And, for things like cold calling and door knocking, those are the most common things you're going to be doing to be generating new business for people you don't already know. And you know what, one tip actually is, when you're door knocking, just make sure you look presentable, because your image matters, and people are watching literally all the time. And, I've seen agents in the past, no disrespect to what they're doing, but, just don't show up door knocking in sweats or, a big sweater. I know it might suit your personality, it might be easy, but just don't do it. It probably does more harm than good at the end of the day, because they're just going to be like, well, you're a nice lady, but I don't know if I can take you seriously, because, it's noon and you're showing up in sweatpants, and, it's little things that you can do to kind of add to your credibility, right? You don't want to do anything that hurts your credibility at this point. Okay. So, when it comes to door knocking and cold calling, the ones of you that know me know that I absolutely freaking door knocking. I hate it. I never do it. I just so much. So I'm a cold caller, and in a normal market, I use Mojo, which is the auto dialer, and the numbers that I strive to hit on a weekly basis is I try to make 200 contacts a week. So I talk to 200 people, and it doesn't matter what happens. If they say no, if they say I'm not interested, or if they hang up on me, as long as I pick up the phone, or as long as we had a conversation of some kind, I consider that as contact. Okay.
Sorry, my son was walking by.
No worries.
So I have a question. When you talk about this Mojo, how does this work and where do you access this from?
So Mojo is like a paid software. It's definitely not going to be for everybody. I used Mojo for a little while, and the results are okay for the first few months. It is quite a bit of a costly software that you can enroll in. So I believe after everything, a month it cost me about $250. So it's not ridiculous, but it's definitely not cheap, and like when you're starting out, I'm going to get into it, but I do think that there are more cost-effective ways to drum business. But in short, it's a software that you can use and you can sign into and stuff, and you pay on a monthly subscription basis, and there's no contract or anything. But it does provide some of the numbers that you're going to be using to call, but you do still need to scrub these numbers against the do not call list because, again, like I'm sure you guys are aware that we can't call those people because they've enrolled on a do not call list. But in short, I do recommend Mojo in a normal market. It is very, very useful. Like every day I talk to 50 people in the morning. It takes me about 2 hours, and I do that about 4 days a week. So, that's how I hit my 200 contacts. And generally that is consistent with the numbers that Bold gives. Oh,
and that is cold call, right?
sorry?
That is cold call.
Yes.
You don't know the people before. You get their contacts from.
They're all
Is
outside.
there any other cheaper software?
Sorry?
Is there any cheaper software that you can use to?
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, honestly, I can't speak for any of those other softwares. Maybe there are. I honestly, I don't know. But I was recommended by another agent in our office to use Mojo quite a while ago, and it's been pretty good. I do enjoy using the software, and I've found it to be very, very clean. You can schedule all of your follow-up calls and everything on Mojo, and to me, it's been a worthwhile investment. But again, like I'm going to go into a little bit more about the cost of things and what I think you guys should be doing, when you're first starting out to try to minimize your expenses.
Erica, just a quick question. How do you know, or how do you find the do not call list? Like, how do you know which people that are subscribed to that?
So you can go on to telelisting. So telelisting is sort of like, think of it as a huge online phone book, and it has the record of everybody that's on the do not call list. And basically what I did when I first started, I basically inputted the numbers I wanted to call on Mojo, and then I used telelisting, which again is a separate subscription that you pay once for. And then you use that to scrub the numbers on Mojo, and then that way everybody you have are just numbers that you can call.
Tele, T-E-L-A?
Sorry?
How do you spell that? Telelistings?
E-L-E and then listing.
Oh, T-L-E.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, calls work for some people. Some people prefer the face interaction. Again, it's all up to what works better for you. Okay, so
Erica, still doing cold calling right now?
I'm going to get into that actually.
Erika, but our agency is paying for do not call list, isn't that right?
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I used telelisting when I got started on Mojo about a year ago.
I think we're paying about $20 or $10 a year, I think, for do not call list
I'm
through
not sure if
agency.
you can use that to scrub numbers on Mojo though. So I think if you were cold calling, manually with your phone, then I think you could use that. But I'm not sure if it'll cross-reference any of the numbers on Mojo. So again, I can't speak for it because I don't really know.
Just a quick question. What are we paying for through agency?
I'm not sure because I don't use it.
Interesting.
You know what?
20 bucks.
But I haven't used the do not call list provided from the brokerage because I already inputted all of my lists like at pretty much a year ago at this point. So I'm not sure if that's changed, but hey, if the brokerage is paying for it, then that's, $200 that you don't have to spend, which is even better.
When you're cold calling or when you're talking to anyone, whether it's an inner circle or outer circle, and they ask like, you're a new agent, how many listings have you sold or how many buyers have you helped, but you haven't helped that many, what would you say?
Well, you know what? I think, well, one, in your inner circle, you have to be truthful because, well, not 100% truthful, but you have to be more honest because they know. They've been watching you from the beginning. So, sorry, that's my cat is coming in. Sorry. So with your inner circle, I think you have to be a little bit more honest and be like, well, you know what? In the last, couple of months, I've helped, like let's say what client A, B, and C, by whatever. If you're brand new, you can be like, honestly, you know what? I haven't handled a whole lot of buyers at this point, but I've learned a lot and I have a very, very strong team behind me. Use the word team because I found that helped a lot as a new agent. Truthfully, I was part of a team before I went solo. But at Keller Williams, we are able to kind of draw more on that being the team setting because, to be honest, we're a lot closer in the brokerage, and you can say that I work with a business partner. In the past, I've actually referenced Jen Silbernagel as my business partner, and you'd be like, well, Jen and I have worked with that many buyers in the past. Like even just in the last year, we've worked with, I don't know, 5 buyers, for example. You can say that. Like, again, coaching I found is a very, very great tool because it's like you're a new agent, but you can take the credibility of Jen Silbernagel as well. So, now at least you can use Sabrina or you can use me or whoever you want to use. I found that to be a very good way of navigating that conversation. And then when it comes to outer circle, people that don't already know you, I'm not telling you to lie, but you don't have to be honest about how many deals you've done because there's no way they can, you know what I mean? Be like, well, you know what? I've helped 3 buyers in the last 5 months look for a new home. You don't have to say that you help them done a purchase or something. Because truthfully, you might have had, 3 buyers that you came across and be like, oh, I help, you help them find a house or anything like that. It's not, I'm not saying you should lie, but like, honestly, you kind of have to navigate the conversation very carefully to, tell them that, I've learned a lot, I'm part of this, and you can use the brokerage's numbers as your own as well. And again, that is the thing that I found to be the most helpful. Use Keller Williams' numbers to help yourself out when you're brand new. Questions, anybody?
I might be jumping ahead, but I had a quick question. I know we touched on cold calling, and obviously we're not doing any door knocking right now. I was hesitant to like order flyers and that kind of thing because I don't think anyone wants that kind of stuff like in their mailboxes and stuff. How would you feel about that, now that we're a couple months into, the COVID situation?
Personally, I'm not a big mailer person, even in a normal market. I don't think that they're particularly effective in market. I think that in order for it to be effective, you're going to spend a lot of money. And that's just, honestly, that's not some, personally, like I don't pay for any kind of print media at all, 0. Like none of my marketing budget goes towards that, just because there are going to be so many other realtors that do it that, one, it's very, very saturated. 2, the costs are just extremely, extremely high between, printing out all the material and getting it distributed. Either you're going up and dropping all these off at people's homes itself, which one is a huge time commitment. And, 2, if you're looking to hire out for for companies that distribute mailers, they are very, very expensive. It says my internet connection is unstable again. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Hearing you fine still, so it's okay.
What about social media? When do you ever pay for advertising for that? Like when would you feel that it's worth your while?
I get there. I get there, and I get there for the print media. But in short, I'm not a print person, and some realtors might disagree, but I'm not a print person at all. So I'm just gonna stick with cold calling for now because I kind of want to go through everything and make sure I cover it all. But if you don't use a dialer, you can still cold call. It's still effective. It's still something that I did in the past, and I've gotten leads from it. I actually, in my first year, I was cold calling manually. Jennifer uses Canada 411. I was using Listing at the time because that's what my old brokerage provided. But Canada 411 is where you get a lot of numbers and you can narrow it down based on the street of what you want to call. So that way you can target who you're calling a little bit more effectively. But in the past, I've cold called manually, and I came across this one lady who was looking to sell, but she wasn't really in area and stuff. And so I actually referred her to an agent to list her home, and then I referred her again to another agent in the area that she knew. So at that one cold call, I got 2 referrals out of, which I think ended up being like $6,000 or $7,000, which is really, really good. Either the return on investment on that time was really, really great. And that's not something that costs me any money, right? Your phone plan is already the way it is, and Canada 411 is free. So you don't actually have to pay to cold call at all. But again, my experience is that I do use Mojo because I found it to be very helpful.
Cold call menu? Like, what are the other systems that you use for cold calling?
Canada 411 is just a free online phone book.
Okay.
How do you spell Mojo? M-O-J-O-R-O?
M-O-J-O, yes.
M-O-J-O.
Yep. And there are a lot of other agents that do use Mojo, but again, it's like any kind of lead generation, it's all about being consistent and, just keep on doing the same things because you will get results eventually. But I'm going to keep going. So, during this market, I've really transitioned away from cold calling. I haven't been doing my 50 contacts a day via cold calls because truthfully, that's just not something that sits well with me, and I don't feel like it's right. Although I know a lot of agents that are still cold calling. I've been talking to Colin Campbell and Mike Russo about it. They're still cold calling, and I guess they still do get results from it. Granted, they're probably not what they usually are because people are not really, either way. So again, for them, because that's their primary mode of lead gen, they're still doing it, and you still can. But personally, I'm not, because I've transitioned away from that, and I've been using my marketing dollars elsewhere. And that's where I'm going to get into what I've been doing during the coronavirus market. So I really transitioned away from cold calling into online leads, and that's not something I was doing as heavily before, because online leads are kind of notorious for being very, very hard to convert, taking a long time to convert, and being harder to work with, and you really have to chase them down. So, when it comes to online leads, I exclusively use Keller Williams Command at this point because I found that it's the best software. It can get you everywhere, and it's the most cost effective, first of all, and you can keep all of your lead generation expenses tracked in one place, which again can save you a lot of time, saving you from inputting everybody into your CRM and that kind of thing. So, like I said, I find it to be pretty cost effective. Like, I have ads running pretty much all the time. And, I would say on average, I probably spend maybe $5 a day on ads. And your results can be different depending on what kind of ads you put. But again, I'm going to teach you guys how to, create things that tailor to certain people, because all of you guys probably have a demographic that you want to hit a little bit more than others. And, there's a way to target everything for those people. So yeah, like I said, track everything more effectively. So yeah, no, one of the great things is it saves me probably at least an hour a week by, putting everyone that my leads generate from, all of my ads into Command directly. So it keeps me organized, and I don't lose any of my leads over time, right? Because it's really easy. Let's say you have a couple of leads from an open house, or, you have a couple of leads from so-and-so that you met at door knocking. If you don't input them into your CRM, the chances of you losing these leads is huge. And these are not leads that you can afford to lose, because that's all potential that you can just, lose a piece of paper on. So that to me is a huge, huge, huge help with Command. So like I said, I use paid ads. They're affordable and they do give pretty good results. They give you their phone number and their email address, and you just have to work them. They're, like I said, they're notoriously hard to convert, and they take a lot of time. And so, my preferred online lead medium is Facebook, just because it works with a it works with a demographic that I prefer working with. And you guys are all going to have your own demographic, right? And before you start lead genning, what I say you should do is you need to hammer down what your target demographic is, who they are, where they live, what they do for a living, what are their real estate goals. And, if you know these things, then at least you can put all of your lead generation into action. Like, for example, if you're trying to target sellers, then, you have to target a certain age group, unfortunately, right? Let's say you guys are trying to target, the sellers of townhomes in Barrie, for example. Who owns these townhouses in Barrie? Is it, people in their 60s, or is it young families probably from 28 to 38? My money's probably on 28 to 38, because a lot of them purchased it as their first home, and a lot of them are looking to move out of it. So maybe look for a neighborhood at which, you know, they're probably starting to see some turnover. A lot of new neighborhoods that are probably in the 5 to 8 year mark of ownership are starting to think about moving, because a lot of them have bought, they've married, they've had kids, and they're like, well, you know what, a 3-bedroom townhouse is not enough space for me anymore. And they might be doing better financially now as well. So now they can afford to move up into, let's say, a single family detached. And then once you figure out that chain, you could find out, okay, so where are these people from that own Barrie townhouses looking to move? Where have they been moving in the past? So that's why research is very important. Okay. So yeah, like I said, my preferred medium is Facebook, although a lot of people use Instagram, a lot of people use Google AdWords, which has been good as well. But I don't really use those because in the past, my most successful medium has been Facebook. So, you know, I'm going to go into this, but you do need to have a very consistent method of follow-up for them. General rule of thumb is people should be hearing from you at least every 3 months, at the very, very, very minimum. Very minimum. A lot of times they're going to ignore it, but okay. So, you know, lastly, when it comes to the outer circle, you know, we talked a little bit about print media. It's a little bit more old school in my opinion, and it's definitely costly, but you know, in the case of when you're trying to build a farm area, as in just one neighborhood that you really, really, really want to focus on, let's say you live there and you know, that's just what you want. Sorry, that's coming in again. Oh. You know, it can be effective, but again, I 100% transparent, you know, I don't use any kind of media just because I find it to be too expensive and the results are just not good enough. So, you know, at the end of all that, inner circle, outer circle, no matter what you do, you just have to be consistent. Do it, put a schedule and do it on schedule. So, you know, Jen and I wanted to talk about sort of how to find the best sort of lead gen for you, because there's just so many different things that you can choose to do. But, you know, if you just know that you cannot do it all effectively, you have to choose, you know, 1 or 2 things in each circle that you do that works for you. So, you know, when you try to, you know, do a little bit of everything, at the end of the day, it's just going to cost you a lot of money and time that, you know, you might not have to give, right? So yeah, lead gen is not easy or honestly even enjoyable, but like, you know, some methods will be more suited to your personality or your lifestyle and strengths, and those will always yield better results for you. So, I mean, I always give this example, like I hate door knocking because I'm very, very uncomfortable when I stand, you know, at people's doors. So I just don't do it. But, you know, make sure you try it enough times to make sure you really don't like it. So, you know, not just once or twice. You can't just door knock once and be like, oh my God, this sucks, I don't like it. Like, you know, that's really not enough to know if you hate it or not. So personally, I have tried cold door knocking. So cold door knocking as in, you know, without a listing or without an open house or without anything in the area, just cold door knocking. I've done it 18 times and every single time it sucks. And every single time I hate my life afterwards. So I just don't do it. But to me personally, I find that cold calls are a lot easier. So that's why I do that. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't give myself any crap for not door knocking because personally, I hate my life when I door knock. So I just don't do it.
What's the difference between door knocking and cold door knocking?
So there's warm door knocking and cold door knocking. So let's say, for example, I have a listing coming up in a neighborhood. Like, let's say I have a townhouse in Summerhill coming up in Newmarket. You know, there's another class that Jen probably has working with sellers, as in it breaks down the steps that you need to take when you're listing the property. Oh, so Corey says, I agree with that. 0 in. I'm canceling my websites at Agent Locator. It might work really well for some, but with COVID-19, people are looking, but not necessarily auctioning, too expensive. So that's a very good point. You know, a lot of things will be too expensive in the beginning. It doesn't mean you can't look into it down the line. It doesn't mean it doesn't work, but, you know, you have to evaluate, you know, the expense and what it will bring to you. Because a lot of these things are not crucial. You know, mailers are not crucial. Agent locator websites are not crucial. Like, there are so many other ways to generate business that don't cost you an arm and a leg when you first start. And, you know, we're going through some of them. So where was I? Yeah, try what works for you because, you know, for example, like, you know, you have to do it consistently to make it work, right? If you hate it, you're not going to do it. It's just pretty simple like that. You know, door knocking is something that I hate. So I have just never been able to do it consistently just because I hate it every time. And it will never be something that I enjoy. but I was on about warm door knocking and cold door knocking. Let's say I have a listing coming up in Summerhill. There's a procedure where you take where, you want to hand out a certain amount of flyers, whatever. But let's just say, for the sake of keeping this simple, if I'm a brand new agent and I don't have a listing, let's say I approached, I don't know, Jennifer Jones for, an open house opportunity for one of her listings. That's something that you can work, like I'm going to go into this in depth later on, but let's say you have a Saturday open house that you got a chance to do for somebody. And, that week before the open house, I will always go and door knock or cold call the entire street or the entire neighborhood. And that's warm door knocking because you have something to offer them. I usually print out flyers with an open house invite going like, hi, my name is Erica. Like, I'm with Keller Williams. I'm hosting an open house this Saturday at so-and-so address. And, I just wanted to hand off an invite to you and I hope I see you there. So that is just one way of doing a warm door knock because there's something tying you to this person. You're not just going like, hi, my name is Erica. I'm from Keller Williams. Have you considered buying or selling? To them, you don't bring any value at this point. So, you have to, let's see, too expensive, belong to a community, increasing my social network. Yeah, like those are really, really good things, Corey, that you're doing. Like these are things that don't cost you any money. That, again, like I'm still a newer agent. My expenses are still, I'm trying to still kind of refine what I spend my money on. And, truthfully, print and that kind of thing is just not something that I think is necessary in the beginning. But yeah, so a cold door knock works. It can work for some people. If it's something that you can do consistently, it works. But that's not me, and that's why I don't do it. But I do warm door knock though. So recently I had a listing come up in a neighborhood, and I probably hand out usually about 200 to 300, like, just listed kind of flyers with my information, and I will door knock them instead of leaving the flyer there. And usually my script when it comes to doing that is, hi, my name is Erica. I'm an agent with Keller Williams. So I just listed your neighbor over there at whatever street address. And, just in case you or anyone might want to move, in case any friends that might want to move into the neighborhood, I just thought I would hand off this flyer to you. So, you can pass it along to your friends and family, because obviously you guys are neighbors and you already know and love this community. So I'm sure you guys can help me sell it. So I found that to be a very, very good script in the past. Any questions? No? All good?
What are other ways you would, like, say you're cold door knocking, instead of going up to a door and saying, hey, you interested in selling or buying? Like, would there be a different script to that?
You can. I mean, again, I'm not the best person to ask when it comes to door knocking because that's not what I do. But, in my 18 times of trying it, certain scripts have been helpful versus others. So I found one to be very helpful where, hi, my name is Erica. I'm a local realtor. So I just have some statistics about, your neighbors that have sold recently. Did you want a copy? That I've found to be good because you don't actually need anything to do that. And it doesn't cost you anything to print off a couple of stat sheets from the office, because you all get 200 prints a month anyway. You might as well use it. And, that can be material for you. And what I do when I print, marketing material or door knocking material from the office is I like to print off them in half pages. So then I usually like to cut them in half, and there you go. You have 400 copies of something that you can give out that you've already paid for. It doesn't cost you anything. And instead, at that point, you're still bringing value to people instead of just being like, hey, are you thinking of buying and selling? Make sense? Okay. So that's it for sort of, my inner and outer circle breakdown. Like I usually recommend that for your inner and your outer circle, have at least one method of getting to them. So for me personally, in the past, in a normal market, my inner circle lead generation was obviously social media. I posted a lot of Instagram stories, just be like, hi, I'm a realtor. Hi, I'm a realtor. In case you forgot, I'm a realtor, So, obviously you're not saying that, but that's kind of what your posts do. It reminds your people that, oh, so-and-so is a realtor. Oh, so-and-so looks like they're really busy. So that's kind of how I stay top of mind, on top of regularly reaching out to my network. Just reaching out to them. Like what we do right now in the COVID-19 market is be like, hey, how are you? Oh my God, how's your, how are you enjoying your place, whatever. Like, you don't have to bring out real estate. But like I said, if you've been posting about it enough, it comes out naturally. you know, instead of looking like you're just calling them or reaching out to them because you want business. But yeah, so, and when it comes to my outer circle prospecting, in the past I always did cold calls, but right now I'm focusing more on online leads.
So when you talk about online leads like Command, you said campaign ads, and you said it captures their email and phone numbers. How do you capture their email and phone numbers? Does Command do that for you?
Command does. Actually, well, Facebook and Command do that for you. So when you're creating an advertisement on Command, assuming you're doing the paid ones, it will actually give you an option as to how you want to capture their information. So let's say they like, I'm sure you guys have all seen the sponsored Facebook ads. It'll say like learn more or something like that. When you click that, it brings them to a lead generation page. Think of it as like a landing page that Facebook already sets up for you. And again, you need a business page to do this. So of course, like I said, everybody needs a business page, no matter what. I'm so sorry, I really need to respond to this message because it's an agent that might have an offer for me. Okay, so, where was I? Oh my God, capturing leads. Okay, online leads. Yeah, so they fill in this lead generation form with their name, their phone number, their email address, and that gets uploaded directly into Command, into your CRM anyway. So like, there's nothing you have to do. All you got to do is call them. It's already in there. You know, I got to.
When you do a campaign ad, it basically sends them to your landing site that you set up through Command.
You can set that honestly is an automatic page that Facebook gives you when you do it with Command. You don't have to do any setup at all. It'll give you an option that says use Facebook lead generation form. But again, don't get discouraged if you're working with online leads and not a lot of them convert, because that's just the nature of online leads. That's just how they are. They're very, very hard to convert, and they're not the most high quality at times. But I found that right now it's what I prefer to be working with, because people are still interested. You know, this is business that you'll be getting down the line. It's not something that's going to show up in the next 3 months. You have to be able to work them, and you have to keep reaching out to them. You know, following up, newsletters, like constant reminders, invite to your page, that kind of thing. Like, these are all things that you can do to just hook them onto you and constantly have your name show up in front of them. Okay.
Does Command do that for Instagram too?
Yes. So Command does that for Facebook, Instagram, and Google AdWords. I haven't tried Google AdWords, but that's something that I might look into in the future. Like I said, Facebook, I found, creates higher quality leads than Instagram has. You know, the leads are a little bit more legitimate. The emails are all legitimate. The phone numbers aren't fake numbers or anything like that. Like, the people I find who respond through Facebook are a little bit more cooperative. So that's why I use it. And I also use that not just to generate buyers, but when I'm advertising my listings to generate more leads like that. It's been very helpful because, like, let's say, for example, like I just relisted a property on Friday. I've had that property advertised in an advertised listing setting on Command, which is not something you have to set up. It's just an option button that you click. I think I've had let me check actually. I'm on the computer. Okay, so yeah, you can do it as a paid campaign. So I'm just on Command right now. So that ad I have up for 10 days. I'm spending $15 in total. That's just one of my many ads. You know, it's been there since Sunday, and I've gotten 6 leads from that so far. So they're not all going to convert, and they're not always going to be quality, but you do get their information, and it's up to how long you can, you can nurture them for. So Corey, you could do about a 29-second video and attach it to an email for personal touch. That is a great idea. You can also use QuickPage, and some of the softwares that the office is offering us right now. So I'm sure you guys have all received Gary McGowan's video messages, which those are very, very good. They're, video I find responds a little better than photos or text. Text is the worst. No one likes to really look through texts, and no one reads through all of that. So at the very, very minimum, create an engaging photo or something that has writing on the photo. But videos are best. So I found that videos in your Instagram stories have been really, really good. Like, I've probably had most of my sphere of influence leads, like the ones who are on Instagram, like most of them came through seeing my Instagram story. Like, hey, can I give you a call real quick? I'm actually thinking about moving later, like that kind of thing. So that's been very helpful. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep going. So Jen wants me to talk a little bit more about the structure of lead generation. So we're going to get into that. Okay, so preparation, what's required beforehand for, the various activities and how to maximize your results for your efforts. So, my philosophy is everything you do in life or in, lead generation just has to be purposeful. Like I was mentioning earlier, you have to be able to put yourselves in the shoes of that buyer or the seller that you're targeting. What do they want to see? What's their age group? What are their interests? What do they do for work? You need to study your demographic to be able to target them properly. So for example, if you're farming, a condo, like with mostly 25 to 35-year-old owners, they're probably not able to or even looking to move up to like a $1.5 million luxury home. And, if you're targeting like, if you're farming an area with a lot of single family detaches owned by people age 35 to 45, they're probably not interested in buying like a condo for their principal property. Like these are just things that they're probably not interested in. Versus if, you're going into like the age group of 55 to 65, a lot of those can be investor clients, right? So, if you target more mature, affluent neighborhoods, for example, they might have kids that are moving out and they want to help their kids buy their first homes or that kind of thing. So study who you're looking to target, because if you're blindly throwing out kind of material at them, it's not going to yield very good results because that's just not what they care for. Okay. Questions? Anybody? No? All good? Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, I target Facebook because one of the demographics that I like to work with is I like to work with retirees and downsizers. It doesn't seem like it because of my age group and that kind of thing. But one of the groups I enjoy working with is, people who are looking to sell their homes and downsize, or people who are interested in investing. So that's why I use Facebook, because Facebook I find is a little bit more popular amongst the 45 to 50, 45 plus crowd. A lot of them are on Facebook a lot more than they are on Instagram, just because it's a little bit more of what their friends and family are using. So that's why they're on it a little bit more. But, let's say, for example, if you're trying to target people who are first-time home buyers from 25 to 30, a lot of them don't use Facebook anymore because that's just not their medium. Like they prefer Instagram, they're always on Instagram, or they're always on even TikTok, for example. Like a lot of them are in those places, and you got to use the right social media platform to target the people that you're trying to sell to. And that brings me right back to, how important it is that you have your demographic figured out before you try to generate leads in some kind of way. Because again, anything that's not targeted is just not going to give you any results, and you might as well not waste your time trying to do it. Okay. So, open houses. So I'm going to be teaching another course down the line on the open house procedure. But in short, this is kind of what I do. I usually, if I'm doing an open house for another agent, I don't always door knock beforehand. But, the Friday before the weekend that I have an open house to do, at least I call. Better yet, sometimes I door knock with an invite. And, like I said, I usually just create those flyers at the office and I print them out in black and white. They're just informational sheets. You can cut them in half and then you can send them out to as many, to 400 people, or let's say you want to do an open house every weekend, you can hand out 100 every weekend. And that's not a penny that you actually have to spend yourself, because
Erica?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to, before we move on to the next thing, if you're advertising someone else's open house, on those flyers, are you putting your information or the listing agents?
Mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because so, what stops that person, like if you knock on a door, what stops that person from wanting more information on the person who's actually listing the house?
Honestly, I have probably called thousands of people and talked to these people for, that same purpose. And that's happened maybe once. And I don't even remember when it. So it's not something that happens. I think very few people pay that much attention to who exactly the listing agent are. And even if they do, you just be like, well, you know what, we're like, so-and-so is a member of my company, we work together, if you want help, if you want to reach out to them, sure, that's, you're welcome to do so. But if you do want to come see the property, I will be there at X time.
Okay.
Just sort of navigate away from it. But I always say that, you know, our brokerage is a big team. You know, they don't know these things, and we give the public a lot of credit in terms of like, you know, how much they care or how much they pay attention to our listings and that kind of thing. They just don't pay attention to these things. So, you know, I just be like, well, you know, I'm hosting an open house here. Hope to see you. You know, you don't even have to stay for very long, but you know, if they're engaging or, you know, mirror and match what they're saying. If they're asking you questions, I would stay a little longer and talk to them about what it is they might want to do, and you know, what's their real estate goals for the year. Are you thinking about selling? Because don't forget that your goal isn't just to invite them to the open house. You also want to capture their information even if they don't show up. But in the past, I have found that calling and door knocking before an open house does help the results dramatically. Yeah, so like I said, I do that, and it's just the warm door knocking is an additional touch. And the more times you can come across somebody with a touch, the more likely they are to remember you and to be like, oh, I met that really nice agent that, you know, that time when they knocked on my door, and then I might as well go see this open house. Because people are curious, right? You know, even if they're not looking to move, they're still coming to see open houses. Like, you know, that's me. Like in my first year, that was easily where I got most of my outside business was open houses. But yeah. Okay. So like with open houses though, another great thing is if you are trying to build a farm area, it's very, very, very effective to host regularly in that neighborhood. And of course, you know, you have to pay attention to like where the agents from Keller Williams have our listings or, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, you got to really seek out these open house opportunities. They don't usually just fall on your plate. You have to look for them. But, you know, if you can, they are a very good tool of generating leads. Okay. So I'm going to move on quickly to talk about social media, but timing and post consistency, you know. So here's the thing. I found.
Sorry. Hello.
Yes.
But we can't do open houses now.
Sorry?
We cannot do open houses now because of this.
That's something that I found to be very good in a normal market. But of course, right now it's inevitable that a lot of our methods of lead generation are just not possible. But you got to get creative, and you know, to me, and I've just started doing more online leads for that purpose. But like I said, it's so important to talk about open houses. So, sorry, did someone have a question? No, all good. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go on social media. I find the best times to post for the maximum of hits and people that see it and that like it is Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, about 10 a.m. I've found that to be the best time and has yielded the best results for me. But of course, that could be different again, depending on your demographic. But, you know, I found those to be really good times to post, and they're a little bit easier because for us, usually our evenings and our weekends are busier. So I like to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. Okay. Yeah, so on command, you can actually do post scheduling. And that I found to be super duper duper helpful because it's a complete game changer for people who don't have a very flexible schedule. Like, you know, you can sit down, schedule one morning and create a bunch of posts and schedule them throughout the month or later even. And you know, you can have them posted on your business page at any time you want, and command will do that right for you. Like if you guys want to look at my business page this morning, I scheduled that like probably 2 weeks ago. Austin, you know, the one that you commented on. Yeah, that one I didn't do. It just posted itself, right? I scheduled that post. And, you know, that is really, really good for people who, you know, if you have kids that are home and bugging you during the day, or if you have another job that you're doing, or, you know, part-time or whatever. Post scheduling is very good for that because it will allow you to post at times that you're not readily available for. Okay. So yeah, another powerful tool that I have had a lot of success with is just Facebook Marketplace. You know, a lot of the leads are really good. They're more motivated because they've been looking in those areas. They've been looking at real estate, whether it to be to rent, to buy, anything. And honestly, it's like, to me, again, one of the greatest things is a free tool that doesn't cost you any money. And I've gotten business from it myself. Like I had a listing in Bradford probably 2 years ago, and I actually double-ended that deal because I found a buyer on Facebook Marketplace. It happens, right? So, you know, sometimes you post. So let's say, for example, you want to reach out to Colin Campbell and be like, hey, can I advertise your listing? 99% of the time they'll say yes. And you can do that and post that on Facebook Marketplace as well. But yeah, that's that. Okay. And then I want to talk a little bit more about farming. So generally, I'm not sure if do you guys all know what farming is, like farming a farm area? Yeah? Yep. You guys all know? Okay, cool.
Can you explain it actually?
Sorry?
Can you explain it, please?
Sure, no worries. So generally a farm area is like a geographical area that you want to sort of like generate more business in. So let's say, for example, like, generally these farm areas are somewhere between 300 to 600 houses. So for example, let's say I really want to target my business in College Manor because that's where I live. Like, you designated that area. So first of all, you need to study who the heck lives there. What's their background? What's their age group? What's their demographic? Do they have kids? What school do their kids go to? What kind of community groups are, in that neighborhood, for example. So step one is always research, right? You got to know your demographic to target them. So the way that so personally, I'm not much of a farm area person, although, that's something I might look into down the line. But farming an area just means that, you are kind of targeting your efforts into that one neighborhood to try to generate as much repeat business from that one neighborhood as you can. Again, this was a little bit more common back in the day. Most big agents farmed an area heavily. Now I don't find it's quite as much farming. Like, we're seeing a lot of agents trade in a lot of different areas right now rather than just focused on one. Like I said, personally, I'm not much of a farm agent because I'm relatively newer, but if you ask somebody else, they might say differently. So with that, it's basically all about scheduling and repetition, right? So I was saying earlier, open houses are great when you're trying to farm an area because it allows you to get to know a lot of the neighbors that live there. And you meet a lot of people and you can get some insider insight on what they care about and what are their priorities and what's happening in the neighborhood. These are things that you might know if you live there, but if you don't, then this is how you find it out. Okay, so yeah, with farming, you got to kind of repeat it regularly, as in, like, generally first of all, you got to track everything. Your goal is to at least talk to the same people once every 3 months, just so they keep seeing your face. And when you get a listing in that neighborhood, they keep seeing your listing. And then over time, your face and your name will be the person they remember. So my parents live in Stonehaven, just around the corner from the office. I haven't really lived there a long time, but if you ask my mom and dad, who's the neighborhood agent, they're going to tell you it's Rocco because he's been there for a long time and he's been, hammering that neighborhood for years and years and years. And that's his farm area. So, that goal is to be that person. And, you can still do it, right? By open houses, by door knocking the neighborhood, by cold calling the neighborhood, by doing mailers, which is the only time when I personally think that mailers are useful, is when you're trying to develop a farm. Okay. Yeah. So in that, some of your research might be a little bit different, as in, one, you got to find out what the turnover rate is in that neighborhood, as in how long people usually stay before they leave. Like, again, the simple one, like I said earlier, would be if you're farming an area with a lot of freehold entry-level townhouses, a lot of those guys, could be starting to think of moving because they bought it as an entry-level home. And now they have the means and the family size to want to move. So that's one example of a turnover rate, as in just how long people stay there. And then, like I said earlier, find out who the dominant agents are in that neighborhood. Like I said, Stonehaven will be Rocco, just because that's, the name that you see everywhere all the time. That's not too hard to find out. You can kind of look at the neighborhood you're targeting and just look on MLS and be like, who has the most listings here? Who has the most market share? Generally, people think that, use Rocco as an example. Seems like he has every home in the neighborhood, but his market share in Stonehaven is only about 12%. It's not as much as you would expect it to be, although everyone thinks that he is the guy to go to in Stonehaven. Don't get me wrong, 12% is still a ton for market share. But, one other person that does it really well is, like, I'm not sure if you guys all know Terry Hastings, but, she's not in our neighborhood at all. But Terry is incredible because she's actually got 25% market share of her market area, which is huge. It's just huge. Think about every fourth home sold is sold by Terry Hastings in that neighborhood. So she was an example of someone who worked a farm and worked a farm very, very well. Okay. So I'm gonna keep going. I went through cold calling. You know, honestly, you just gotta have a schedule because, you know, when you don't have a schedule, like life always gets in the way. You know, people are be like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna cold call when I have time. And then you see a pile of laundry that needs to be done and you're just not gonna cold call because there's other things that you'd be rather doing. So yes, have a schedule. My schedule is Monday to Thursday, which can change. I have some flexibility in there, but 4 mornings a week, 10 to 12, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And again, that schedule has to be something that you can easily fit into your lifestyle because if, you know, let's say there's no perfect time to prospect, you know, there's no perfect time because let's say like, you know, you think that people are going to be home most between 5 and 7. You could also say that people are having dinner between 5 and 7. They don't want to hear from you. So you got to find a time that fits into your life. So again, example, if I have like a kid who's in school normally, my only times of freedom to work is between like, let's say 9 and 3, you know, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's when I got to get my prospecting done because that's a routine and that's a schedule that I can follow. But if I have a kid that comes home at 3 p.m., it's not realistic to think that I can prospect from 4 to 6 p.m. every day. You know, you have to do what's realistic for you because otherwise you're not going to do it. Okay. So I'm going to touch on networking events, not like social events or not just social events and communities, but, you know, when you're talking about local businesses, local networking groups, like that kind of thing, you know, it's just like every other kind of lead generation, like it has to be done with relative consistency. But personally, I found that networking isn't super effective because like you do come across a lot of other people that are there for the same purpose of trying to lead generate. And, you know, you might get their information and stuff, but one, they might be meeting a lot of realtors that day. And two, their headspace is not exactly in the time and place to look for a real estate professional. You know, they might keep your card in their back pocket, but generally I find that, you know, these things aren't really like a main method of lead gen. Like they can be supplementary, you know, it can help with generating some leads here and there, but it's definitely not something that you can, you know, really rely on with consistency. And again, some agents might disagree with me on that, but you know, these are all just my opinions. Okay. But you know, on that note though, I think that neighborhood and sports groups are very, very good for, you know, long-term lead generation because, you know, when you look for groups that have like very consistent schedules for, you know, getting together and that kind of thing, like it helps maintain your relationships because you're seeing the same people all the time. So like, for example, you know, everyone's been through high school. Like in high school, you're close to all of your friends and you know everyone, you know them really well because you're always in the same place at the same time, right? So that's why sports groups are amazing. If you're part of a sports team, like that's really, really good for lead generating because let's say you're a team of 12 people, like those 12 people will become close to you and they may send you referrals. And same thing, if you meet them now, they don't know how long you've been in real estate for, so even better. Okay. So we went through database. I feel like we don't have to do that a whole lot anymore unless you guys want to go through database a little bit. All good? Okay. I think you guys all know how to reach out to your database. Okay, so there's some agents that rely heavily on agent-to-agent referrals, and that can happen sometimes. You know, I know of some realtors who, you know, get a somewhat consistent stream of business through agent-to-agent referrals. But again, I think it's something that's more supplementary rather than something that you can rely on as a main method of lead gen because it's not consistent, right? You know, you can't really rely on somebody else to bring you leads rather than to try to look for them yourself. That's right, I'm so thirsty. However, I do find it to be very helpful to, you know, when you do a deal, it's personally, I'm more of like an everybody wins kind of negotiation style. So, you know, I find it helpful to stay in touch with agents that you've done deals with in the past because you never know, one, what, like if you can need any help from anybody for any reason, and two, like, you know, you can kind of get some first dibs on some of their listings that might come up that, you know, you can maybe advertise. Like if you have a good relationship, having done a deal together in the past, I wouldn't hesitate to reach out and, you know, try to befriend them and, you know, learn a little bit more about like, you know, any listings that they have and if you can advertise any of their stuff because, you know, like I said, they're usually more than happy to let you do so. Okay, but yeah, agent to agent referrals can work, and Keller Williams events are actually very good for that. because, you know, you meet a lot of agents from all over the world. So let's say, for example, like Keller Williams family reunion, like a lot of agents from our office attended, and a lot of them have formed relationships with agents outside of our market area who have in turn sent business to them. Again, supplementary, but it can work. Okay, there we go. Okay, so actually, Tamara, you and I were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Really good to start allies with other industry professionals because you never know where your next deal can come from. So personally, I would always recommend to get a network of mortgage brokers, lawyers, home inspectors, and, you know, other people like bankers even, because oftentimes we do send referrals to each other. You know, often it's us sending it to them, but sometimes they can send them to us too. And it's always really good to have these people in your back pockets, because if you have any questions, that's more in their sphere of things. You know, if you built a relationship with them, they will always help you because, you know, they want to help, they want to keep you happy too. So like, let's say, for example, mortgage brokers, you have to have one, because if you don't, you know, and your clients are going everywhere to their own lenders, it's just a lot of it's very disorganized, and it's hard for you to follow up when you do have a deal where it is, because, you know, sometimes deals can fall through just because there's a you know, a missing link in, let's say, connection. And you don't want to risk that. So, you know, get a relationship with a mortgage broker and a lawyer. Okay. Yeah, so we went through print. So, okay. One important thing that I really need to talk about is the cost of everything. Just because, you know, like our emails and our phone numbers are everywhere on the internet because we're all realtors and people can look us up on realtor.ca. So, you know, I'm not sure if you guys have already always been hounded down by all of these marketing companies that are trying to sell you leads. Raise your hand if you have, because I have, like, literally every other day. Yeah, they're awful. They're always, you know, again, no disrespect to them. They're just trying to lead gen in their own way. But you will always get them trying to reach out to sell you leads or sell you this software that will sell you leads, or, you know, not saying it won't work, but you know what, though, for the most part, I found that the return on investment is not that great. And again, if you're trying to save money in like your first year in real estate, I just wouldn't recommend working with an outside lead generation company, because their expenses are there no matter if you want business or not, 99% of the time. So, you know, I personally, I wouldn't sign up for something with that little certainty, even if I wasn't a new agent. So, you know, same thing. Some people have said very good things about Agent Locator, but again, as Corey was saying, right now may not be the best time to enroll in these things. So, you know, in a market where a lot of us are trying to control our expenses, those companies are just not something that I would probably invest in.
Erica, have you ever used any of those systems like Agent Locator, Bold Leads, or any of those?
I have not, but I have talked a lot to agents. I have, and my old team did. So I personally, I don't know too much about Agent Locator because, again, I don't use it, but I'm sure, you know, a lot of agents in the office will be able to tell you about it. And then you can obviously make a decision on your own, whether you think that that's something that would benefit your business.
I kind of asked about it, and I talked to one of the persons who like contacted me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I found it pretty expensive. Like they were asking $800 upfront plus $300 to $400 every month.
That's that's pretty heavy.
Do you think there are most of the online leads systems are like that?
They're fairly costly for the most part. Like, you know, I think just in the neighborhood of a couple $100 every month is pretty average.
But doing the campaign like ads that are on command is usually the same thing as what they're doing, no?
So technically yes and no. I think, again, I can't speak for all of these like lead generation tools because I'm sure they're all different. But again, I'm a bit of a control freak in my own business. I like to generate my own ads and I like to do my own lead generation because I can control exactly how much I spend on everything. Because a lot of the times, like these companies will be doing the same things for a lot of agents. And in that way, you know, you don't really want to spend all that money to have your ad be identical, if not very similar to another agent who may be in the same market area even. So again, that's money that you're spending that doesn't necessarily set you apart, right? Versus the paid ads on command, you know, you design your own ads, right? Again, everyone knows that I use Canva pretty much exclusively, but you know, you can design your own ads, you can tailor them how you want, you can target a certain demographic that you're looking to target, and it's a lot cheaper. Like honestly, I probably spend on average maybe like $150 a month on paid ads. And these are all leads that I get for myself. And, you know, I can choose to scale that back down whenever I want to, or I can increase that number whenever I want to. So, you know, rather than being on a rolling subscription-based, you know, lead generation service, I find it to be a lot more cost effective. And at the end of the day, you maintain control on your business. Okay. Well, you know, so far, basically, like, kind of when it comes to lead generation, everything that I do, I measure it on my return on investment, just like an investment property, right? You know, how much time does it cost you? How much money does it cost you? But how effective it is, like, is the most important. So, you know, how much is it costing you versus how much is it bringing in, right? And again, you can't measure every single form of lead gen as in how much it gives you right now, because some of them will pay off for you better in the long run. Like my online leads, for example, I'm sure there will be something in that, you know, will generate, but again, it's still up to you to do it. So online leads will cost me time and money, but in my opinion, it's a pretty fair amount of both. So it's not like I'm spending a ton of money with something that takes very low effort versus on something that takes a lot of effort that, you know, costs me no money. You know, generally I find that, you know, when you're new, I would probably choose to invest my time rather than my money, because you have the time to generate leads, but your business hasn't generated that kind of income yet. So that's where I would focus my time, is things that don't cost me very much, but take a bit more effort and time to do. Okay. So yeah, generally I think the guideline on seeing if something works for you is somewhere between 6 to 9 months. So for example, if you're door knocking, at least do it consistently for 6 months before you can say that this is not for me, right? Do it consistently even on a weekly basis, right? Once a week is better than nothing, before you can say that, okay, this just doesn't work. Because it does, but you just have to do it consistently. But, you know, let's say if you're like me who hates it and, like, you know, I'm like squeaking at the door because I hate it so much, it's probably not going to pay off no matter how long I do it for. So, you know, you need to learn when to cut your losses and just move on to the next one and try it and see which is the most effective return on investment for your business. Okay. So, I mean, I guess, like, out of all this, there's just no easy way out. Like, you either pay for it in your time or your money, right? I chose to put into time commitment. So yeah, like things like open houses are really good because it costs you no money, but it costs you a little bit of time. And I told you, like, you know, the foolproof way of handing out invites that doesn't cost you any money is to just literally use the office resources that you already have. But yeah, this takes time to build, right? So, you know, right now, I think rather than trying to focus on right now business, which of course is important, but if you can find business that will pay off to you in 6 to 12 months, I think that's okay. So, okay. So yeah, at the end of the day, the conversion is key, right? So, you know, one thing that you shouldn't be doing is, like, you know, don't worry so much about being good at lead generation, because the more you do it, the better you'll become at it. So don't be like, oh, I don't know my scripts yet. But yeah, you don't have to follow a script. Just get comfortable with it first, and the scripts will come later. So, you know, I guarantee the first 100 conversations that you're going to have are going to be super awkward. But after that 100 conversations, you're going to be very good at it. It's not going to be awkward or painful anymore. So, you know, I honestly think the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to lead generation is just practicing too much before you, like, you know, get the balls to do it. So, you know, when it comes to scripts, like, you know, they're really good, but you do have to make it your own, because if you try too hard to focus on following a script all the time, you're just going to mess yourself up, right? You're just like, oh crap, I like messed up that, you know, one word that isn't even important. So just make it your own, you know, like in school when you're trying to memorize a speech, you know, use cue cards to memorize the points that you want to hit, but you don't necessarily have to follow it word for word. But you should use scripts that are focused on conversion rather than just capturing the lead. Okay. Okay. So I have a couple of tips when it comes to talking to leads. So it's, you know, it's pretty simple. Just keep asking them questions, you know, because people usually love to talk about themselves. Everybody does. And, like, you know, just listen carefully, but, you know, don't talk about yourself so much when you're meeting a new lead, because, you know, you want to, at least I want to come across as somebody who's a great listener and who is trying to understand their needs and wants as a client, rather than just trying to boast about, oh, I'm a top agent. Oh, I sold, you know, 58 houses last year. Like, that's not what they care about. For the most part, people care about what you can do to help them. And step one is you got to listen to what they're looking for. So, you know, you can ask them questions about like, you know, their family, life, work, any kind of thing, but, you know, don't be intrusive, because some people can get very uncomfortable with that. And, you know, if you do get a sense that they are uncomfortable with you asking these questions, you should probably back off and not ask them so many questions and just be like, oh, so what do you guys think about the house? And, you know, surface things like that where they don't have to give information. But for the most part, I do find most people, at least at open houses, are a little bit more open about talking about themselves. And so my favorite questions I like to ask at open houses is, or even what I'm cold calling is, you know, so, oh, what areas are you guys from? What do you do for work? You know, how has your experience been, you know, looking for a house or selling your house been so far? So, you know, what do you love the most about your area? And, you know, kind of what drew you here? And these are all natural conversation starters that will get them talking about their home. And, you know, it will also give you clues about what kind of person they are and what drew them to that property, because that's probably what drives them to something else. Okay, so that is leads. And okay, last thing I'm going to go through is just lead follow-up. So when it comes to follow-up systems, like the frequency that I do it kind of varies between what stage they're in and when they're looking to do something. So when it comes to clients that I'm working with right now, like let's say for example, looking to buy a house, or I have a listing signed with them, they should hear from me at least once a week, like very, very bare minimum. Once a week. You should not let your client not hear from you for that long, because one, they're going to be like, well, you know, so-and-so still remember me. And two, they're going to be like, well, did they like, are they still here? Or are they like, do they care about my home? And you don't want them to have the opportunity to think negatively. Why is Tamara not calling me this week? Like, oh, why is she like not giving me any kind of update on my property? You know, because when you give people the space to assume these things, a lot of the times they will assume negative things, and you just don't want that. Okay, so people who are 6 to 12 months out, right? So, you know, let's say I have a friend who's looking to buy a condo by the end of the year. He should hear from me at least once a month, very, very least. Probably more would be better. Let's say if I come across a condo that might work for her, I'd be like, hey, so-and-so, check out this place. Like, you know, it just came on the market. Do you think this is something that you guys might look into when you're ready? And then they'll be like, yeah, maybe. And then you can say as in like, oh, no worries. That's awesome. I'm trying to get to know what you're looking for, just so when you are ready, you know, I can get to know you guys better already. So, you know, once a month if they're 6 to 12 months out. 12 plus months out, you know, as in like, oh, maybe a year or two from now, like, I don't know, I might think about selling, that kind of thing. Whatchamacallit? The Keller Williams 12 by 12 says that you should reach out to them every month, but personally, I think that's a bit much and that might not sit well with some people. Let's say you meet someone at an open house that, you know, they're like, oh, maybe in like a year or two. I like to reach out every 3 months, because that's enough time for them to not feel like you're calling them up, right? Because sometimes I think less is more, and if you make them feel like you're kind of pushy and constantly like trying to be like, hey, are you ready? Hey, are you ready? Like, I think it can do more harm than good. So personally, my philosophy is once every 3 months if they're not looking anytime in the near future. Okay. So, you know, when it comes to follow-ups, my favorite type is text messages, because people don't love being called these days. You know, it's not usually their favorite method of communication, because some people might be like, oh, I never get calls. Like, why are you calling me? So I text. And, you know, whenever I send text messages, I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. So for example, one, if it's somebody who I met at an open house, or a lead that I met a while ago, this is something I would send. For example, hey, Paul, this is Erica Cho with Keller Williams. I'm going through some of my records and I noticed that you're looking for an end unit townhouse in the Summerhill area. Are you still thinking about a move this year? So it's pretty light, shows that you're still, you know, you remember what they're looking for, but it's not super pushy, you know, and that's something that you can send to them every couple of months. But obviously mix it up a little bit, but that's a great way of revamping leads that you haven't talked to in a long time. So that's that. And then, for example, like I was saying, for people that you already know, my text script goes something like this. Hey, Joe, how's everything going with you and your wife? I hope you guys are both doing well. And that's my text. And then I usually let them respond. And then, you know, we chat for a little bit. Usually when real estate comes up, I'd be like, yeah, they'll be like, oh, hey, how's real estate been? I'd be like, yeah, it's actually been pretty busy, even with everything going on recently. By the way, do you know of anyone who's looking to buy or sell a home this year? I actually have a listing that I'm trying to find a buyer for. And again, you're not targeting them, right? People don't feel as personally targeted when you're asking them for referrals in that case. Because if people already know you, they're already going to be like, hey, well, you're like, hey, Austin, yeah, like, you know what? I'm actually looking to move maybe in a couple of months. So it's an easy in for them, but it's also an easy out for them. They don't have to tell you if, they're just not interested, right? They don't have to say that to a friend and be like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm not interested. Because some people, for them, that's hard. They don't like it and it's uncomfortable. So you're not asking them directly, but you give them an opportunity to say that they are, if they are. And then lastly, follow-ups, just make sure you're collecting any missing data. Like if you only have their email address or if you only have their phone number, try to get the whole collection. Even having their home address is really good, but that's not always easy to get. But at minimum, you should have both email and phone number. Sorry, Corey says, Erica, may I show something that I'm doing with businesses in the Kelly Insight when you're ready? Yeah, I'm almost done, so you can definitely go ahead. So yeah, like my last tip is you definitely always have to add value. So like, whenever I send something, I usually like to send something that will capture their attention, especially after we haven't talked for some time. So my favorite way to add value is to kind of on my own review what it is that they're looking for and send them a brand new listing or something that's listed within the week that they probably haven't seen. So that will capture their attention and it shows that you also kept them in mind. Okay, so that's it. Sorry for all that giant chunk of information, but that's pretty much what I have to say about lead generation. What I do. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much, Erica.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erica.
I just flipped up. I hope I'm not interrupting somebody, but I just put up there the screenshot of the what I do on the Kelly app when I put the insight in. And the reason I do that, this is what I've been talking about, I've been doing is because if we're talking about just generating or just doing that warm call or the forward call, I have been choosing local businesses because they're struggling for one, and they often have employees or they certainly have a network, and anything that you can do to enhance their position, I think is probably appreciated. So if they have a Facebook page, I'll flip it over to I have a few Facebook pages, and if they have an announcement to make, I'll flip it over to mine or share it to mine and try to get the public to engage. Like if it was a bakery, like what's your favorite baked goods that you bought there, try to get engagement. And then I started doing this with the Kelly app or the Kelly Insights. The only thing I can't do when I just looked at the app today is I can't find the insights. I don't know how that works, because what I'm telling the businesses is that when this is up and running, I'm saying it's not ready yet, but when it's up and running, it really enhances the consumers' search for properties in the area, because they can also look and find their businesses under categories and even on the map. And then when it pops up, like this is just a screenshot, so it's not live, but when it pops up, it shows a photo that I've uploaded from their business. It shows what I put in there, which is their contact information, their phone number, maybe their street address or an email address or something like that. I try to keep it simple. Maybe a little description, but the consumer can enlarge the photos. And I've gotten really, really good feedback. They're really appreciative of that, except that I'm hoping this is really actually going to work, so that when I can give them the app, which I got today through Scott Leroy Marketing, assigned to me, but I can't find the insights on it. So I don't know whether this is just something that's still in the works. But when it comes on the market, I think that's a huge advantage to the KW agents to be able to showcase the entire community for free, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And like that again ties into kind of building your farm area, because you're partnering with local agents. You show that you are a local agent that loves and lives in this neighborhood, which is very, very helpful. And by helping these businesses as well, they don't forget about it. Like you never know where your next referral is going to come from, and a lot of the times they might be interested in like moving themselves. Yeah. So anybody have questions? No, good.
When you're making the Facebook ads, what kind of content do you find is like the most effective? The sponsored ads.
Honestly, I find listings are very capture a lot of information because people are always messaging you and be like, oh, hey, how much is that house? Or like, oh, where is it? Or things like that. So I try to give information, but don't give all of it. So listings are very good. And then I find, generally that, you know what, it is generally listings. Like I find lower priced properties tend to perform a little bit better as well. More affordable ones in more affordable areas. And, you got to kind of, again, target what it is that your demographic is looking for. So like, let's say, I don't know, if I'm looking for first time home buyers, for example, a lot of them might be looking to purchase a condo, whether it be, New York region or Toronto or anywhere. I would post some listings of condos because that's what they're interested in seeing.
Right. Awesome.
Mhm. Cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I was just asking on WhatsApp if anyone can share their screenshots, of our group, because on my screen I can only get 4 faces in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, no worries. I can probably send mine.
thank you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, quick question. In terms of like turning Instagram followers into leads or into contacts, what's the best way to go about that? Is it contacting that person directly, like through a DM and maybe asking for their information? Or is it better to, I know on Instagram you can put up like a question or something so someone can answer only if they want to. Like, is it better just to make it post on your story and people contact you instead of putting someone on the spot? Because sometimes you'll have followers and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're even thinking about
and
real estate at all, right?
Thing that I actually missed is that like one of my favorite ways to generate leads on Instagram is by doing polls. So sometimes I ask questions like, what do you think this property is worth? Or which one would you rather have? Or ask them to guess things that they might not necessarily know. And a lot of times they'll respond, and that doesn't always mean that they're interested, but at least it'll give you an understanding on which of your followers is actually interested in your real estate content and what is popular and what isn't. So then that way, down the line, if you see that they voted a couple times, you can be like, hey, you know what, long time no chat, how are you? Like I noticed you like were voting on some of my real estate posts, like, how's it going? Are you thinking of moving this year?
Okay.
Really easy in. Polls are very, very good to use because they're very low pressure for a lot of people, but yet they can still engage.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, good. And you guys can always ask me more questions if you think about anything. Just ask them in the WhatsApp group, and then I will always do my best to answer them. Coolio. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully it wasn't
Thank you.
or anything for all of you.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Hi, Sabrina. Have you been here the whole time?
In and out, but that was really good. That what you covered was excellent. Very good.
Yeah.
We'll have lots of questions later.
Yes. Well, if you guys, like I said, remember to do your post on anywhere about that you took a course today. Okay. Instagram stories, Facebook pages, anything at all. Just get it out there because I will be checking, and I will call you. I will call you out if it's not posted somewhere. Okay. Anyways, yep.
Would you ever offer like a referral credit for any of your clients, or
you know what you can?
Would you offer them anything before they offer you a referral?
I don't usually do that just because, well, for one, they can't actually receive any monetary compensation if not like from the office. So that means that you have to pay it out on your own, which means that, it's complicated on a tax thing because let's say you pay out like $1,000 to a friend who, was like referred to someone. You can't actually deduct that from your taxes. You can give a gift certificate, but I usually do that after the fact.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so if I've had friends that send me like really great referrals that I've done deals for, and then usually I actually like to treat them to dinner to chat, and I'll give them a gift at the dinner because that gives you a chance to catch up with them and whatever they're doing and learn more about them and how they are. It also feels like it makes them feel like you care, and you can give them that gift at the same time. So who knows, maybe more referrals will come their way because clearly they trust you enough to give you the first one. Yeah, and it doesn't make them feel like it wasn't, you know, you don't want to thank them for helping you. Cool.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, well, it was nice to chat with all of you. Hopefully it was helpful. But yeah, reach out if you have any other questions.
Thanks, Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
See you
Very much,
guys
Erica.
on,
Thank you,
see
guys.
you guys on Monday.
Stay safe.
Monday
Thank you.
at 12.
Bye, guys.
All right, Sabrina. See you on Monday.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good weekend.
Hey, now I can cut your hair for you.